see those flags? Huh? That's the American flag. Yeah? Oh, your piggies are over there. You wanna go see the piggies? Oh, I see Chloe. Good to see you, Chloe. Do you know what this is, Bubba? That's a well. That's where we get our water from. So what's up, guys? Staying here from Rocky Creek. No, I do not wear this attire typically to go do workout in the garden. This is pretty much Rocky Creek uncut. This is what I do on a normal weekday. Is I get home from work, I hurry up and do my afternoon chores. I don't even change clothes. I really just untuck my dress shirt, roll up my sleeves, and change my shoes. Get out here, do afternoon chores, go inside, eat with the family, which we've already done, and then come out here and do a little bit of follow-up stuff I may need to do here or there. You know, if I notice something odd with an animal or some bedding changes. And today in particular, we're gonna get in our video to discuss something with you all, which you saw me point out our wellhead to little man here. And I wanna talk about something that you should consider if you're gonna do this type of a lifestyle, especially if you have a smaller scale homestead to where your space area is limited, because it's something that I did not think about when I started doing this. Mrs. Rocky Creek, to her credit, she is sort of a worrier, and she's like, hey, do we need to worry about these animals with our well? And I was like, you know what? I didn't think about that. Let me do some research. So I'm gonna share with you what I've learned and some of what I did in particular with my animals to try to make sure we don't have an issue. And I'm gonna talk about a water test that I just got back this week, which is what prompted me to make me wanna do this video. We've been here for 3 years now, and we have had our second water testing done on our well, and I'm gonna share with you those results. So let's get into this a little bit. You wanna teach them about the wells? You got anything you wanna tell them? Yeah, that is the well. That's the well. So guys, I got little man here with me because Mrs. Rocky Creek and Madison aren't here this afternoon. They actually ate dinner with us and then they had to be somewhere. But this is our wellhead. It does sit up slightly elevated from where our home is, and it definitely sits more elevated than where our animals are. And that's one of the key things that you want to think about, is you need to think about wastewater management and runoff and what the manure from your animals can do to your well. And depending on what type of gardening you're operating, if you're not using organic stuff in your garden, then you could also have pesticide runoff and things of that nature that could eventually seep into your water. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now, I am not at all any type of professional when it comes to this type of stuff. I am just simply sharing with you what I read and what I applied here on my homestead in hopes that it may help you. And if anything, this video will just give you that little thought to think, hey, I probably need to think about this before I just put some animals right here because of where my water comes from. So take my advice for what it's worth. I'm not a professional, but I do want to give you a few things to think about when you're going to put your animals on there. So let's show you some of what I did and what considerations we took. What are you doing? Just talking about wells just gets you pretty amped up. So this is our wellhead, and it sits actually at one of the highest points of our property, and it's about 100 feet from our residence right here. That's not as much a concern. What is a concern is where this is in relationship to these guys and those guys down there. Miss Olivia, we're gonna tell them about where you poop in comparison to the well, okay? I don't know if you can tell from the camera, but there is actually a fairly good downhill slope from here to our pig area, which the downhill slope continues all the way down beyond where our meat birds are until where you may be able to see the other home down there and the gravel. So when I did my research, it said that you want to put any livestock at least 150 feet from your wellhead. That is what they consider to be enough area for any kind of saturation into the ground through any permeable coarse soil that could eventually infiltrate into your groundwater. Now, when I set up my pigs, one thing about pigs that people don't understand who have never been involved with pigs or raised pigs, but people assume that the pigs are very dirty animals, when all reality, they are actually sort of clean other than wanting to get in the mud to cool off, in that they will only use the restroom typically in one place. Now I have had Henry's in one of those rare exceptions where he just kind of goes wherever, but the two prior Coonies all use the bathroom in one place. Both of these guys are all using the bathroom in one place as well, and they will naturally do it furthest away from their home. They don't want that stuff in their house. So I intentionally put their homes on the upper side of the slope in hopes that it would encourage them to use the bathroom at the lower side, and it worked perfectly. So as we follow the downhill slope from where both of their homes are right here, you can follow this. No, that's just mud waller. I've been letting the pool overflow there, give them a spot to cool off because it's almost been 100 degrees a day and humidity through the roof. But if we keep coming down here to this end, you'll see a dark spot in the corner. And you'll also see their pile of manure out here that I've been piling up until I can haul it off to another spot. But this dark spot, they use the restroom in this far corner away from here. So I started their pen 150 feet from the wellhead at least. And then this pen is close to 50 foot deep. So we are almost 200 feet away from the wellhead. But when it rains and we get runoff, all that runoff is gonna work its way down here and then take this beyond here, which will keep it down this downhill slope, so we shouldn't have any issues. And the same thing applies for our chickens. Now I will say that the chicken manure probably isn't that great of a concern because it's a very smaller amount, even though you have a greater number of chickens, and it tends to kind of dry up and wash away a whole lot faster versus you get a pile of manure such as this just saturating your ground that takes a very much longer time to decompose, could create a lot more issues. Then you can have a greater problem than with your chickens. So it actually went into a lot of thinking, and now as I progress into wanting to expand some of my area with my pigs, now I'm always thinking of how do I work from high and work down low so I don't have this issue. But I also need to take in consideration some of my nearby neighbors so that way I don't cause a runoff issue down towards their wells. The next closest neighbor's well is down this way, which is pretty far away from where I set this up at, so they should not be impacted by it either as well. Mater, your buddy's trying to tell you hi. Why are you not giving her no attention? What did you do today? You checking out on me? I got your fans on here, ready to see you. Olivia, can you get him motivated? He's a little lazy. Come on. So guys, that just gives you a little bit of idea about something to think about when you're placing larger animals, because several of you who follow my channel and seeing our Coonies seem like you're thinking about maybe Coonies being a breed of pig that you want to raise. And some of you all have gotten into my channel because we only have a little less than 3 acres, and so you see yourself maybe being able to raise Coonies or maybe American guinea hog or some other kind of a more of a smaller homestead style pig. And if you don't have very much space to work with, you need to think about where in relation that your wellhead is because of what could be impacted by that. Now, we shared with you all a while back, this was probably about 6 or so months ago, about us having a Berkey water filter in our home because we had some concerning results from an initial well testing that we had after we moved in here. We did that testing at a local university through a cooperative group at our local co-op. And it was great because it's independent analysis, not done by a company, and they simply give you the results and some advice as to what types of a unit, not brand specific, but what types of filtration could address your issue or what steps you may want to look at taking. Well, when we did that first test, we had elevated levels of barium, which is more of a heavy metal type stuff, nothing animal or livestock related. So that's where we ended up getting our Berkey to counterbalance that, and it was a much more cost-efficient option than what filtration devices were available for us to purchase from larger companies. Now last year we were unable to do this testing again because of all the COVID stuff going on. The cooperative group was not doing water testing. So we just had to go on and hope and assume that the Berkey was doing its job. I'm not gonna say I stressed about it, but there was periods of time I wondered, man, I really hope this thing's working. It tasted different. It tasted like almost as like purified water would be out of a bottle at the store, but you really never know. So fortunately, about a month ago, they announced that they were doing it again. So we did samples from both our tap, straight from the faucet, and samples from the Berkey, and we paid for 2 tests to be done, and we sent those off. Now we got those results back just the other day, and let me just say I was very pleased at the results that we had. We wanted this tested for several reasons. Number one, to check our levels of barium and to see whether or not we still had it in our regular water and was the berkey doing its job. I also wanted to check on our fluoride levels because since we have children, the dentists and stuff want to know what fluoride is in our water because that's very important for obviously tooth development in small children, and whether or not we need to do fluoride treatments when they go to the dentist. So we needed to double check on that. And then lastly, I wanted to find out, does having our livestock where they're at, is it impacting the levels in our well at all? And if so, do I need to start adjusting my animals accordingly? Uh-oh, we got pig wrestling going on. Olivia done pushed Mater out the way. So guys, on the good note is, yes, we did have the fluorides. And not only do we have fluoride in our water, but it's at the levels that's recommended. Actually, I think it's 1/100th under the most optimum number that you could have. So I'll take that as a win. We don't have to do anything with the children in terms of fluoride. So our natural fluoride in our well is almost spot on. So we're good on that. Now, secondly, on a really good note, in comparison to what I'm talking about right now, there was 0 traces of any kinds of harmful bacteria, E. coli, or any type of contaminants in our well that could have been as a result of livestock on our property. So I have had larger pigs on my property for 2 years now, and they are the closest animal to my wellhead of any other animal. And for us to still have 0 registered contaminants of anything like that makes me believe that the way that we have set up our structures downhill 150 feet away from the wellhead has actually worked out, and we don't have any risk of them contaminating our water. Now lastly, what's the status of our barium problem, and how did the berkey affect that in terms of the results? Well, I got good news on both. The first good news is actually straight out of the tap, we had no issues with the barium this time. The only thing that I can register my brain around in terms of the levels of barium being at a dangerous level is that maybe when we had the water tested, it was soon after the home was constructed, and therefore maybe the stirring up of the soil, the drilling and things of that nature maybe brought a lot of barium to the surface. And over time, as we've been able to flow the water through, much of that has filtered out, and now we're getting our normal levels. But on a positive note, hold on, y'all look at Miss Olivia getting her mud waller on. My gracious, you trying to cool down in your mud waller? You done made a big old mess. I'm not sure Mater's into muddy girls. You might want to reconsider that. I don't think it's worked for you yet. The berkey, I do think, is really doing its job at reducing the level of contaminants, because many of these items are okay within certain ranges. It's when they get above a certain range. So they're in your water, but they're not at all dangerous or can even be beneficial. But when I looked at each of the different items that they tested for, on average, there was about a 10% decrease in the various different types of contaminants or minerals that could be in the water. So the berkey is definitely reducing those numbers. It didn't reduce them quite to the level that I had anticipated, but if you have numbers in your well water or from your city water that is just, a little small percentages above where they should be for normal ranges, that berkey, based off of my test results, may very well get you to where you need to be. Now, with that said, the filters currently in my berkey are about probably 7 or 8 months old. When I did that initial video talking about my berkey was when we changed those filters. So those filters aren't even close to being new when I did the test as well, but it did still reduce those numbers. So guys, this wasn't a really long video, but it was something that I just got those results and I wanted to share them with you, so both you can understand something to think about on where you may put your animals in relation to your wellhead. I'm just very pleased and happy that our actual straight natural water is perfectly safe to drink now, and how we got our animals set up has kept us from having any issues as well. And so it gives me confidence in knowing how we're set up for the future, and we'll just keep progressing on there. And right now, with some of the stuff that we've had going on, I'll take any good news I can right now. What do you think? You take that good news too, Bubba? He's like, it's hot. It's hot, Daddy. Yeah? That's the camera. That's the camera. Olivia, you got something on your backside. Might want to clean that up. It's a little gross. So guys, for me, little man, a big fat muddy pig and a big fat sleepy pig, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Hope this little tidbit of information about the results that we got in our water testing and what to think about in terms of locating a well will be of a benefit to you, or something to think about as you work towards setting up a homestead, or maybe what you already have set up and what you may need to adjust. But guys, we appreciate you. Hope everybody's having an awesome week. Y'all take care of yourself, and we'll see you here very soon on one of our next episodes. Thanks, guys.